on. Happy spring.
Happy spring.
I mean, it's been spring for a while.
Well, only like a week.
Right,
Well,
but
10 days.
yeah.
But we're through Easter, which is kind of amazing.
Which is crazy. I
And
know. We're
April
in
Fools.
April. Yes. Well, hello, everyone. If it's Wednesday, it must be Facebook Live. And I'm Kate Richburg.
Emily Miller live from
Redwood City. Yes, right from beadshop.com headquarters, you guys. And this is our spring surprise episode. We thought it would be really fun to create something that we didn't know what the other one was creating, number one. Number two, we thought it would be fun to use our new mix for spring called Rainbow Sherbet.
I think this is the first time, and I love the mixes that we've been doing, but I think this is the first time that I saw the mix and I kind of went, immediately I know what I'm going to make.
Yeah, you knew. You knew immediately.
You knew. I just knew.
I kind of knew.
Did you?
Yeah. And we have them out here. And you guys may have seen, so you can find, just so you know, you can find all of the projects and product that we're using in the projects right on our website at beadshop.com. And today we're using it, just launched yesterday. It is our monthly mix, and it's indeed, like we said, it's called Rainbow Sherbet.
Yeah.
And look at how cool. Isn't it packaged just
I think
right?
this is just the best.
Isn't it good?
I literally, the first one of these I saw was just like the tester. And I said, you have to do them like that.
So good. Yeah, this was, I think, your idea, right?
You
so
have
we
to do it that
did.
way.
We packaged them in this rainbow ombre, which is really, really great. Well, let's see who's jumped on before we move any further. We're in front of the camera. Brandon is behind the camera. And we've got Janice doing some moderating from the other side of the computer.
Drea is there too.
And Drea is there. And we've got Gita here as well, and she's on the beadshop.com little icon that you'll see commenting. We've also got our Cara. Cara's day off is today. So hi, Cara. Thanks for...
Cara's not having a day off? Or
she's off.
I know, but she's on here too?
Well, she likes to watch us. Yeah. She misses us.
Well, you know what? It was really fun.
When we're not
Easter,
together.
We were together. I was together with a bunch of my family who I don't see terribly often. And they said, a couple of the ladies said, yeah, we watch you every Wednesday. And I was like...
isn't that awesome?
So hi, Debbie. Hi, Lori, if you guys are watching.
Oh, that's great. I
really
love
appreciate
that your
it.
family is watching.
Yeah.
My mom watches. My family watches. It's great. And so what we're doing today, like we said, is we're going to do this spring surprise. Before we jump in, though, we want to cover just a couple of things. You guys, there's been a lot of people. We've got a lot of new members on our Facebook site, the Bead Table. It's our Facebook group. You can go over there and join up on our Facebook group. We've got a lot of fun action going on over there. And we have gotten some new product in that I wanted to touch on just really quickly because we had a couple of questions about it.
Yeah.
And then we'll get to the surprise. There you can see in front of us, you can kind of see where
happening.
we're going with the surprise. But we had a question in the Facebook group. We just got in these 3 new colors of these hematite cut cubes. So now we have a whole bunch of colors.
So they're really very reminiscent of a shadow.
They are.
Of a little shadow.
A little shadow. My favorite bead of all time.
Like a cube with the corners knocked off. And just like the shadows, they really do have a pretty generous hole.
They do. The hole is big.
Tough when you're talking about semi-precious stone beads or any kind of stone bead.
Yeah.
Making the hole is not always the easiest part of the job.
Yeah, so it's a smallish bead, like you said, Em, and we have it in 3 new colors. The matte metallic green, the metallic iris, and the matte metallic blue.
And I think the matte metallic blue is the one I love the most, and I
Yeah.
think it's already almost sold out.
Well, it's getting there.
It's
Well,
low.
and these are beads, thankfully, we think that we're going to be able to have a constant supply on. So don't freak out too much if you're like, oh my god, I didn't get mine. We will have a consistent quantity of those. There are about 200 beads on this strand, M. And
so this is just a good normal size 16-inch strand.
A 16-inch strand, and there are the whole size will fit a 20-gauge wire. And the question was yesterday, what leather will they fit on? And you can see I've
Right
got
on that 0.5 millimeter.
0.5 millimeter right here. And they fit on really, really nicely. So I have the Distress Gray 0.5 millimeter leather. And another clue, if you're wondering about how to figure out what bead holes will fit what, Janice does a really great job when she writes our copy. She tries to be as detailed as she can. So in the copy here that I'm looking at, just under the title that says Hematite Metallic Iris, it says a 2 millimeter plated hematite cut cube, which is what it is. And then it says IHD, inside hole diameter, equals 0.9 millimeters. So you can translate that 0.9 millimeters, that hole diameter, to any of our cords, anything that's 0.9 millimeters and under, really.
Yeah.
So
and, I mean,
they'll fit on Chinese knotting cord.
It's such a good hole. I mean,
Yeah.
we could make multiple passes with them, so we could seed bead with them. We could do what I'm going to do today with them, actually.
Yeah, you could.
You could herringbone with them,
You
which
could.
would be sexy.
Which would be really nice. You
Yeah.
could bead embroidery like
Bead embroidery,
we did.
absolutely.
Yeah. So it's a really fun new bead. So I wanted to share a little bit of product knowledge about
Can I
that.
show one more thing on with that strand?
Yeah, here.
Interestingly enough, last night I was with my niece, and she's about to embark upon some beading for one of her projects. And we were talking about beads, and I said, you know, when you buy things on the internet, most of the time they don't really tell you what the hole size is, and it's really frustrating. And if you're just getting started, sometimes that just becomes like the killer of all pleasure, is that you get things and you have nothing that will fit through them.
Right.
One of the things that you can always look for is to see what the beads are strung on already. So this is actually strung on monofilament, which is like fishing line, which doesn't compress at all. So it's like
Right,
wire.
it's stiff, right.
Yeah, it's stiff. So if you see something strung on that, you can actually be sure that the hole is pretty good.
Yeah, and you can kind of match whatever that string material is to whatever string material you might have at home.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great tip.
It's just sometimes you'll see things strung on what looks like a strand of embroidery floss. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Watch out for those. I'm looking at you, Garnet.
Yeah.
Often is like that, and it has really small, unpleasant, and unhappy holes.
The one thing that we just got some new garnet 4 millimeters in, and the holes, you've seen them, the
Yeah.
holes are giant.
They're amazing.
Yeah, they're really good.
Well, and the string that's going through them is substantial. It doesn't
Yeah.
look like embroidery floss.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like dental floss or
Right.
something really wimpy.
And so it's really great. So that's one of the things we do here when we do get new beads in, or when we're looking for new beads. We really try and get the holes to be just right. I wanted to also share with you guys, and Drea will put all of this in the episode notes, but Janice made a really, really great sample that we haven't quite finished with them, and it kind of relates to what I'm doing today. So you could also use this with my project, and she loomed with them, and you can see
amazing.
she's kind of done kind of an ombre or a bunch of different types of colors in this, and we just need to go ahead and put a clasp and stuff on. The cut cubes came a little tight in the looming, and I'm going to address that because it happens to all of us. It happens to me sometimes when I loom. It happened to Janice on this loomed piece. So we're going to really address how when we close the loomed piece off to give it, as we like to say, enough air. You can also find us, just real quick so you guys know, some of you like to watch us a little after the fact or after the show. You like to watch us on our YouTube channel, and you sometimes like to watch us here on our Facebook channel, or you can also watch us on the website on whatever project page it is that we're doing. We also embed the feed there, and you can. Oh, you want to? You want a photo? Okay,
Yeah.
I'll just hold it up like this while I'm talking, and then. On the Facebook Lives, you'll see all of our comments, but when you're watching on YouTube, the comments don't translate over.
Right.
So, sorry
I
about that.
kind of like YouTube. I mean, it's easy, and,
Yeah.
and I don't have to. I don't have to read the comments.
Yeah, and a lot of people like to watch it on their YouTube app on their smart TV.
Right, right. So they get to see
so
it big.
they get to see us big, which is great for the projects as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so shall we? Let's get started. Let's see what we've got going on here. Oh, one thing I did want to mention, though, Brandon, before we move the camera, we are wearing a couple of things going back a week and going forward a week. And we can talk about this a little bit at the end, but this was my Free Tip Friday piece.
You did a beautiful job.
You really
passed.
Did I pass?
Totally.
You so inspired me with this bead embroidery, and I know that you inspired so many people
I was
in the group. Nancy
totally excited to see it.
Used a check glass button from Bead Shop that was just a perfect little center
She
for
had
her
like
bead
the
embroidery.
perfect colors going around it.
It's really nice. And we'll put those again, we'll put those in the episode notes.
Yeah.
Drea will
And
put
it
those
really
so you
warms
guys
our
can
heart
see it.
when we see you guys like turn it around and
Yeah,
go with it.
we love it.
For sure.
And we also have, you may have spied this, what's going on my wrist.
What's going on your wrist?
Well, it's nice, right? We're going to talk about it a little bit at the end of the broadcast, but this is our brand new Prairie. Janice has made 2, and I'm going to make 1. And it features this new, what we're calling the half circle clasp. And
So
Michelle, in our bead group, I sent a couple of samples of things out to our bead table members, a couple of them, and she made a really great purple one that is up, but we'll put it in the episode notes. And this is what's coming up next week. Janice has a
Really
new
cool.
stitch for Prairie where she incorporates the A-dots and stuff. So it's going to be really, really fun. So I can't wait to share that with you coming up next week. So, okay, let's jump in and see what we've got. So shall we move it along, Miranda
We're
Wen?
going down on the field?
Let's do it.
Yep.
Alright.
I'm going to get some of this stuff out of the way. I know that your bead table looks like our bead table.
I actually spent some time this weekend cleaning off my bead
Did
table.
you?
I had an extra day. I had a 4-day weekend, which was pretty
Wow.
luxurious.
Wow.
But I did spend a little time clearing off my bead table. So I have like 2 square feet now to work on.
Oh, that's great.
I have the problem that I really like to have a few things that I'm sort of mulling over
Right.
often out on my table. And
Right. I do
sometimes
too. I
if
like that.
I've just bought some new beads or when we just got back from Tucson, I haven't even touched those new things. that we
Right,
got
our
from
new
Tucson-
things. I know.
From Tucson. So I did manage to clear myself kind of a good work area. And then I started working in front of my computer because I was watching something on Amazon. So
Oh,
you know,
well, you know
that
how
happens.
it is. Oh, and Nancy Bauer is on. She's the one who did that really nice piece that I mentioned earlier, the bead embroidery piece. So Nancy will link it and put it in the episode notes so everybody can see it as well. And just a reminder, before we get any too much further, note you can always kind of bypass our chit chat if you do our slider. The go for it about 15 minutes in the broadcast, and that's when we usually start in our instruction. And of course, episode notes, they come out the Monday after the broadcast, and Drea does a wonderful job of kind of gathering all of the information in one place, and you've got the links and you've got the photos, so it's really, really
and those
great.
little timestamps are super handy.
Yeah, super handy.
She will actually put in a little time of the video when you can scroll up to that time, and then you can go to the next step, scroll up to that time.
Yeah,
and the next
it
one.
makes you go kind of quickly
It
through
does,
the episode if you don't want to listen to all of our chit chat and stuff. Because I know sometimes people comment, they're all, "That's enough chit chat, ladies,"
Onwards.
and we understand. So we want to give you a vehicle.
It's
to,
not like we don't see each other kind
That's
of
right,
often.
all the time, right? So, you guys, here's the spring surprise.
I know.
Surprise!
Surprise!
Here it is.
Why don't you grab a couple of those tubes?
These tubes,
Yeah,
yeah.
put 'em down
So,
in here.
talk about your surprise first.
You know, when I literally walked by, Jen, I think, was working on these, and I walked by that kit, and I thought, or that tube, and I thought, I said, you have to do them like this. And I said, I know what I'm going to make with this already. And it's really rare for me to have that epiphany that quickly. So what I really wanted to do was do a herringbone bangle with these, and do my bangle without a clasp.
That's
you know,
exciting.
I have a love-hate relationship with elastic bracelets.
Right.
I sort of love them because they're really easy and fun, but I also kind of hate them because I worry about the elastic not being so durable and feels not a very sturdy material, and so
It takes some special considerations.
and
sometimes
I
when
have flashbacks to be working in the bead store and people come in with their broken things and tears and all those sort of things. So what I did first off was I separated my beads.
Nice.
They were in this tube,
Right.
and I made volcanoes of each color.
And so you kind of did this. You've done. I'm going to pull these over
Sure.
in the shot. And would you also hand me?
Oh,
I
Jen's
just wanted-
inspiration?
Yeah, just real quick before we go any further, I really wanted to show this part, and then I didn't mean to interrupt your flow.
Go right
I'm
ahead.
sorry.
Oh, well.
But that's how it is. So Jen, when she, what are you going to do? When she found this on Design Seeds, I think the website, this is the photo that she took the inspiration from for doing the palette mix.
Yeah.
So I just love it. We love these, and I was going to get some jelly candies to eat on air today, but I forgot to get them.
So, you know,
in all of our busyness. But
does everybody know how this works? You actually can take a photo and using a program on your computer or on your phone, it will color palette the picture, the colors that are in the photo.
yeah.
Just so you've done that. I have one I think called Chip It because
Yeah.
it's a paint one.
And this one is called Design Seeds, design-seeds.com. And it's really a great one. You can upload your photo and stuff. And again, we'll link it in the notes. But it's a great way to start with that. But I did want to start at the very, very beginning with
And
this.
definitely some of my inspirations over the years have come from fabrics. So you can go to the fabric store and there's all these great palettes already kind of made up. But seeing this kind of stripe like this just really got me going. When I poured out each little section of the tube, there was invariably some mixed. And here's a tip for dealing
And-
with mixed beads when that happens to you.
And the size of bead here.
These are all size 8.
Yeah, it's the 8-aught
Japanese
Miyuki.
Japanese round beads. If you have a little mixture as you're working, work from the mix, and then pretty soon you'll have them all separated.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah,
So
it doesn't
this is-
take very long.
Here's our little mix in the bowl
Right.
right here. And you can kind of dump them out.
Yep, and I just did my little volcanoes right along in a row, and I actually used the colors in exactly the same way.
Yeah,
that
that's what I
came
did
from
too.
the tube. Yeah, because I thought they worked really beautifully
Yeah.
like this.
Yeah.
So there's the purple, pink, kind of a peach,
A
opal,
salmon kind of color.
and
yeah.
then this very very pale tangerine and
That
AB yellow
lemon.
lemon, and then an AB green as well.
The lime color.
And I just made them into a herringbone bracelet right off the bat.
And so herringbone is a great basic seed bead stitch.
It is, and it's actually kind of a fast one because you add 2 beads at a time. And it starts off very much like brick stitch does, so very similar. And I used a size 10 needle in this case because I was using a bigger thread. So you've maybe heard me talk about wanting to use size 12 needles for everything, and
Right.
they really are my standard, and I have to say, not just me, but pretty much everybody kind of uses them as a standard. I did a color block piece, and
It's
then
really good in this stripe.
and then the stripy one.
I love this.
It's really fun,
Yeah.
and it's just go go go. It doesn't. There's no. You don't have to stop for a clasp or stop for anything else. So.
No, it's really nice. And then, so you're going to show that in just
Yeah,
a moment.
absolutely.
I'll show you what I did here. I worked with the jewel loom.
I love this because it's got that ombre in it.
Yeah, I've been wanting, as soon as Jen kind of came up with this idea, I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to loom. We haven't loomed in a while anyway, and I was kind of itching to do it. So you can see I did a little twist on a couple of things here with the loom. I used our brand new surfer cord on the outside as kind of I don't know, maybe something that would anchor the piece a little bit. And then I did also kind of an anchor bead here with our new 3mm melons. And then I, again, just as you did, Em, I just kind of poured out my tube and I just used my beads as is right from the tube. And I'll talk a little bit how I created this pattern. And I'll jump in. I'll jump in right now
And
with how I started.
did you use most of your tube?
You know, I had used maybe about half the tube.
Because I used about 3/4 of my tube, I think.
In one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I didn't
Maybe
quite have
I
enough to
used-
make. Maybe it's a little more than half. I didn't quite have enough to make 2 bracelets.
1, 2, and I think that's how it was with this.
Yeah.
I have almost enough to do 2, but not quite. Not quite.
Of course,
so,
if you made it narrower, you could probably
Yeah,
scooch 2 out of it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
so
yeah.
let me talk to you a little bit about the pattern on this piece. Again, I used the jewel loom, and what I did was for the color blocking, I started here and I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, between 5 and 6 rows of just the plain color.
To establish it.
To establish it. And then I did 2 to 3 rows, depending on if I did 5 rows here or 6 rows here. 2 to 3 rows that incorporated the 2 colors, and then I went again plain color with about 6 rows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then you can see here's 3 rows that incorporate the 2. And again, I think I went a little longer with this one. 1, 2, 4, 6. I actually did 8 rows, 8, 9. I guess I really liked this this kind of salmon-y color. So it just depends. So figure out kind of what what your color order is going to be. And what I did, let me measure this for you. I had the measuring tape right here. My wrist is about, just so you know where we're going with the lengthwise, my wrist wrapped tight, in a snug bracelet, is about 6.5 inches. So I went in to our vast stash of bracelets, and this is one I think that Janice did under our Tricks to Looming, and I found one that fit. Okay, now if you don't have a whole stash of bracelets, you can kind of start to measure what's going to work on you. This one, the lengthwise from the suede door to door is about 7.25 inches. So I knew that's about what I was going to go for. My looming plus my ends had to be between 7 and 7.25, because the closure I'm going to do, which is this guy here, this allows the piece to be adjustable.
Functional.
Yeah.
Yep.
You can make it a little longer or shorter, depending on the need, if you need to make it a little longer and shorter. And you can see this one butts up right against here, but I could have tied it, especially if you tie your loop a little bit smaller and it still fits over your button, you can make it a little tighter or a little looser if you need it. So
should I show you how I figured out my length on mine?
Yeah.
It was very, very as you go. Mm-hmm. So I actually wanted this to slip on my hand like a bangle. Mm-hmm. So I actually measured around using my
like
piece.
Like the fat part of your...
Just the biggest part of my hand. Mm-hmm. And I grabbed my 2 threads. And what I really want to do is get it to just about touch. Mm-hmm. So just about almost touches. Right. And this is kind of fat, so it does take up some inside diameter. So for my wrist, I needed about almost 7.75 of an inch. Mm-hmm. But the herringbone's got a little bit of give to it.
Sure.
So I can stretch it on over my wrist, and since I use the extra fine Ceylon, it's nice and strong. Mm-hmm. Worked great.
Mm-hmm. No, I think it looks. I love this stripe one. So for this,
I guess I know where that one's going today.
Right. What size is your wrist? Your wrist measurement? Shall we measure? Mm-hmm. That way we can just kind of... I have a big wrist. I have about a 7-inch wrist. About a 7-inch wrist.
And I always think for ease, or what Janice calls air, but around my wrist, I think of it as ease, that I need about 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch extra.
And so that's what you're gonna when you're gonna close this up. You're gonna make it.
It's gonna end up about 7 3/4.
Yeah,
a little over 7.
Great. So if you're typically then with this herringbone bracelet with this size, your finished wrist size plus about 3/4 of an inch is about the way to go.
1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch, and you'll be in the right ballpark.
And this one for me, it was my wrist size, 6.5 plus, again, about 3/4, 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch. And you can always, again, make this end with the suede longer or shorter.
Sure, you have a little bit of playroom there.
Because you can see on this one that Janice made, her beaded portion is about a little under 5 inches, just shy of 5 inches.
I'd like to see how that one fits me. Just for kicks.
Yeah, see, we can stretch it a little.
Yeah.
We could I would tie this knot a little bit here, so you just have a little more room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So my beaded portion, since I had so much color that I wanted to incorporate, my beaded portion is actually longer. So my suede portion
can be a little shorter.
Is going to be a little bit shorter. So I know that when I go to close this, let's see where it's at now, door to door. Yeah, we're at about 6.5. So I have about, including this weft, I'm going to go for about 7.25 inches. So my closure is going to be a little shorter. And I'll show you how to do that when I close. But let me show you how I actually start by putting my beads on this loom. And then, Em, I'm going to pop over to you and you'll
I love how your woven warps look on this, Kate. It really looks so pretty.
I'd
almost want to have that
Yeah,
You know,
it's
how
not
you
too
did
bad.
your looming and weaving and textured looming. I would love to see this one with some of that weaving
Some
in the
of
middle.
that, like we did with
Yeah.
the textile
Yes,
looming,
yes.
right? Yeah. And I know that some of you out there who are weaving purists, and you know, I also weave, and I know Emily, you weave as well. In the textile world, we weave.
Well, I don't weave as much as you
well,
do. You're much better weaver
I
than
do
I
a lot
am.
of weaving. I'm working on a piece right now, actually. That's the thread is so tiny, but I'm getting there slowly. That looming really isn't what we're doing. We are actually weaving.
Right.
It's not, looming isn't really a word. But I use looming like a loomed bracelet or whatever, sometimes when I refer to beads to differentiate it from textile weaving. So that's just kind of my own little idiosyncrasy. I know, though, that it raises the hackles of some of you true weavers out there, but humor me in this, if you would. So here we are. We've got the jewel loom, and a lot of you have the jewel loom already. And if you don't, it's a really great portable loom. It's very inexpensive. I think it's a great piece to a great loom to add to your collection.
What's this one called?
You
Tricks to Looming?
It's under Tricks to Looming.
Let me look it up.
And I'm not sure what the exact project is called.
There was a question here. I'm going to see if I can
Okay,
find
sure.
it.
So the way I started with this one is I said, well, I want to add that surfer cord. So you can see, and I'll turn this one on the back, the surfer cord comes around here. So I started by warping this loom with my KO. So let me show you how that's done. And I just used regular KO, this apple green KO. And notice how I put the bar here in the jewel loom. The jewel loom bar is what kind of pulls the loom up, so after you warp it and take this bar out, your tension is just perfect. So I'll come in and I'll show you how this is done from the back. I grab my KO and I tie it in a little overhand knot like this, and I tie it around that little button there. Let me bring that to the front. And I make another knot so it's nice and tight there, so nothing is going to come off. Okay, and I'm going to go through once, and that will just hold it on. And if I don't want this little thread to get in my way, I can cut it off a little bit shorter. Now, I skipped, let me show you, on the one that I've threaded. You can see right here, I have skipped a channel. So I've threaded this loom with warped this loom with putting my beads in there every other little space. But you don't have to be super precise when you're doing this jewel loom, because as we all know, as we get older, it's a little bit hard to see. So I'm going to come in and I'm just going to do this with, I'll do a skinny one, so I'll do this with five channels across. So I'm going to actually start over just a little bit. Maybe I'll do it with 7 channels across. So there's that. I go around once, so this is my first wrap, and then I go around the little button in back, and I come over to the front, and I'm going to come in, and I'm going to wrap it around here. And at this point, I want to double check and make sure. See how I've skipped one here? But see on this side how I've skipped 2. So I'm going to check it at this point. I'm going to get my awl. I'm just going to move that over. That one popped in the right place. So that's my space right there. So there's 1. And I'm going to do this with 5 channels across, and my 7 channels will be added when I put my surfer cord around the ends. Okay, so here's 3 channels. Wrap it around your button on the back. Catch it. It's catching here on the little, let me drop the thing there. It'll be a little bit easier for me to handle.
And this is
Bring
like
it
this is
through.
a continuous warp.
It is. It's one continuous warp.
Right.
you can, you don't want to stop and tie it off and tie it back on.
Right.
Because it defeats the purpose.
Of that warping bar.
And you can see here, I need to fix it at this point. Your awl really helps to move that little thread over.
Yeah.
And then I want to place it right in there. So that's 4. One more. I'm going to come down here to 5 there and bring it down. Okay, and I did an odd number because in my finished piece, as you can see, I threw a line of shadows down the center. So I wanted it to have I liked it, you know, and you could throw a couple of lines of shadows or you could mix these shadows throughout. I just thought one single line going down the middle would be kind of fun. So I had an odd number. So now I'm going to take my little end here, I'm going to clip it away, I'm going to give myself enough thread. And I'm going to wrap it around. Had I not been so eager to cut away that little piece, I could have used that to tie this in a square knot. But I'm just going to bring it around, make a little loop around the button, and head that end through. Maybe. There we go. Tighten it up. And I'll do that one more time. And that's knotted on there pretty soundly. Oops, I think I didn't catch it, so let me do it one more time. There we go. Okay, now I will clip this away. Now it's time to add our surfer cord. Okay, and notice I actually also didn't put this right in the middle of the loom. It doesn't really matter. So the surfer cord that I used, and I had an open one here, so I don't use one of these. Was it sitting over there?
Nope.
What happened to our surfer? Do you see it over there? I swear I had one open.
No, I didn't see one. Well, go ahead and just use that one.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this off.
I haven't had a chance to look at that surfer cord yet, but I'm kind of intrigued by it.
Yeah, it's fun,
so
right?
It's a cotton cord.
It's a cotton cord.
And it's braided, so it's very durable.
It's really durable.
Stretchy.
No, and it's not waxed or coated or anything. It is water resistant.
So it's got a bit of a sheen to it, which I think is kind of appealing. I wonder how long that lasts. Well, I guess we're going to see soon.
Yeah, it's a really great cord.
Yeah.
And we've got a ton of colors in. We also have a bunch of, you know what I'm actually going to do? I'm actually going to start this one, instead of with the green, I'm going to jump in, I'm going to use this different color, yeah.
Oh, awesome.
That's what I'm going to use, because I've got these guys sitting right over here, these watermelons. Excuse my reach here. Let me get this open. We have it in a bunch of colors, a bunch of really cool different colors.
And a couple sizes.
2 different sizes. I use the 1 millimeter.
And, you know, it's always, there's always a bunch of folks who want to wear their jewelry 24/7 and never take it off. And so if you're going to get it wet, this is really a good call.
And we don't love getting our jewelry wet, but this is going to be...
Well, it certainly shortens its life.
Yeah.
No doubt. And chemicals from pools and stuff like that probably don't help at all.
But Janice is really working on a wrap bracelet using the surfer cord too. So we're going to have some wrap bracelets with it. And it's all coming in on order. So I know that some of you are like eagerly chomping at the bit going, where's our surfer cord? But it'll be back in
Right. And you can always put that little notification on each piece, right? And say, notify me when it's back.
Notify me when it comes in.
Yep.
So I cut 2 long pieces here. Let me tell you how long I cut these. I cut them, where's the end of my tape measure?
When you need it.
When I need it. I cut them about 28 inches or so, about that. So I've got plenty to work with. And what I do is, I've got a little knot here that's an overhand knot. I'm going to come in, put it around the back of the button in the back. And I'm going to bring it forward. And I have plenty of tail here because I'm going to use that later. And I'm going to come in, I'm going to just line it up, there and there. bring it across, trying to hold it and keep the tension and trying to hold it in the little ridge. If it doesn't want to stay in the right little ridge, that's okay. We're going to move it after we tie it on here. But now I'm just going to kind of bring it around the little button, bring it around the little button this way, and I'm going to tie an overhand knot here to just tie it down. And we want everything, you guys, to be firm, but not so tight that it's just crazy talk, right? That it's just nice and firm. There's my little knot. There it is. I'll be able to unknot this and save these lengths and stuff for later. So I'm going to double check and make sure that this is where I need it to be. So I'm going to use my awl and come over and just slide it in the right channel there. It's in the right channel there. It's almost in the right channel here.
You know what I use for that? My little crochet hook.
Your crochet hook is great for that too, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, good one. So now, and you can feel this, the tension's pretty good, okay?
Yeah, yeah.
But when I take out this bar, and I know this is where people freak out, they're, oh my God, I'm taking out this bar. But when you take this out, and now the tension is perfect.
Yep.
So when you start looming, you could, if you wanted, start in the center and work your way out, or start at the end and work your way across. I'm going to lay in a few rows here, and why don't you show, Emily, how you get started with herringbone?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay.
You know, for clarity and to allow you to be able to sort of see what I'm up to, I am going to do my first little sample with some black and white beads, just so that it's just easy for everyone to see. I've also got my very fine, tell me the names of the fine, ultra fine, what's the Ceylon?
Sorry, the Ceylon's micro.
Micro. So I have Ceylon Micro here,
Yeah.
which is big, but will fit through the eye of a 10 needle. And it does mean that you want to remember to needle the thread, not thread the needle.
Let me ask you real quick.
Sure.
When we were, I remember when you were talking this morning about when you were choosing your threads. You can use micro. Could you use KO?
You could. I would want to use it doubled.
These little beads. Okay.
But you know, there's sort of a point to the larger thread as well.
Okay.
So what I find is when I'm using seed beads and the thread, the ratio of the thread to the hole,
Pardon my reach.
is that there's lots of space in that hole after I put the thread through. The beads kind of wobble around a little bit on the thread.
I see.
And so not only did I want to have this slide on and want it to be durable there, but I wanted the thread itself to help me a little bit with tensioning. So you can double up thread, so use it doubled instead of singled. You can wax your thread, that helps also. You can make more than one pass through the beads. So in herringbone's case, there's one thread in every bead. Speaking of wax, there's some wax.
I'm going to wax this.
Peyote stitch has 2 threads through every bead. So if I go up a size in thread and I'm going through 2 times or more, if I'm joining or finishing off a thread, it will actually help a lot with my tension and make it more taut, more consistent. Herringbone
What about Fireline? If I throw Fireline in
you
there?
could do Fireline as well.
But
Again,
it has
double
that
it.
Same, double it.
Yeah, because it really is so small that it doesn't really support the
Wobbles
beads.
around.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you one more question before you go on. These are 8/0 that we're using.
Correct.
If you're using 11/0, you'd go down a thread?
I would go down. Then I could go down to,
Okay.
and we could do this with 11/0, you know?
Yeah.
One of the things I kind of like about our mixes is that we're showing you what's in the mix. So if you like the mix and you want to get more, you can make your own mix, or you can, you know, pull those colors out from our supplies. We usually have every color in all the sizes. So if we've got it in an 8, we'll have it in a 6 and an 11 on either side. Okay. So the micro Ceylon I'm going to use as my seed beading thread with a size 10 needle. Okay. Mostly I like a 12, but we're going to make a concession to Kate's 10s
right. I chose the 10.
Right.
Well, and the size 10, the size 12 wouldn't fit that micro Ceylon.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I'm having to do this somewhat out of necessity. So I'm going to pull my thread down in between my thumb and forefinger till all you can see is a dot of thread in between my fingers. And this is super helpful to have gray thread or black thread. If I'm working with light beige or pink thread, it's hard to see in between my light beige or pink fingers. And I'm going to take the eye of the needle and I'm going to press it down on top of the end of that thread. And I do a little sawing motion back and forth to kind of wiggle it on and try to get the whole thread through the eye of the needle before I pull it through. So it's opened up just a split, just a tiny bit, and I'm going to see if I can pull it through. I might be able to win, or I might have to clip a new end. So this is a time where you really want to have a super sharp scissor.
Super sharp.
And I'm going to
Those
cut
are
it.
our old school thread snips.
I love these old school
I
thread
do
snips. They're
too.
kind of my faves.
I do too.
I'm going to try that one more time. So I'm pressing the eye of the needle down onto the end of the thread. Like I said, giving it a little bit of a wiggle. Success, right?
Yes.
And I'm going to pull that thread through the needle a bit. So we said this very quickly earlier about doubled or singled thread. And I want to make this I want to make sure I'm clear. In this case, this is singled thread.
I'm gonna pull it way down.
Okay, sorry. I've got my thread fed through the needle, and it's overlapping to a point, and then this is the working area of the thread where it's single. If I was going to use doubled thread, I would pull the ends together, like I was sewing on a button. I would have doubled thread throughout. Okay, and doubled thread is not the easiest to work with. If you split your thread or make any mistake,
It's like game's over.
game over. You're gonna have to stop that whole
Yeah.
thread and deal with it and come back with a new thread. So single thread is mostly what I use. I used to get really freaked out about my seed beads not having enough thread in them. There's plenty. Trust me.
Okay.
Okay.
Because sometimes I have that issue.
You feel that? You
Yeah.
feel that too?
Yeah, I
Okay.
do.
So
I do.
I'm going to start off my base row for this piece the same way that I would do it for brick stitch. I'm going to start with a ladder of beads, and there's going to be 2 beads in each stack. I'm
Okay.
doing 2 beads mostly to give myself a little something to hang on to. And I'm going to start with a couple of white beads. So put those on my needle first. And I'm going to make a stack of black beads right next to it. So I'm going to pick up 2 black beads. With herringbone, with any seed bead stitch, it's worth it to look at your beads on the needle before you stitch through, just in case there's some wobbliness there and you can avoid having to undo. Okay? I'm going to slide them down, and I'm going to leave myself about a 6-inch tail
Okay.
of thread. It's not mandatory that it be 6 inches. It could be 8, but you'll not like it if you make it 4. Okay? And I'm going to fold these beads around so they're starting to come around side by side. And I'm going to put my needle up through the first pair of white beads that I put on and pull them around into a little bit of a circle. Okay?
And so this is really similar to how you have started brick stitch.
It's exactly the same.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go down through my black beads to pick up another pair of white beads.
And so you're always working in that pair.
Yep. For this stitch, I am always going to work for this pair. Around, back up the white ones. So it's kind of circling through, and I always have to stitch up again or down again to make sure I finish that stitch so that my thread's coming out right where I would add the next pair of beads. Okay. And that's my 5th pair. So my last pair is coming on here.
Last pair.
All right.
And so does that, and you may have said it and I may have missed it while I was doing this limb, what determines that you're putting on 5 pair?
Brick stitches, or I'm sorry, herringbone stitch is done in groups of 2. They're done, the beads are put on in pairs.
Okay.
So I need an even number.
Okay.
So it could be 2, 4, 6, 8,
Okay.
however many I wanted
Okay.
to do it.
And so that directly relates to the diameter of whatever the herringbone
tube.
tube is going to be.
Yep.
Got it.
Because this is a tube, and it really makes a nice, herringbone makes a very flexible fabric. So to make my tube, I'm going to bring these guys around, okay, and join them up. So I'm going to go back up those white beads, and down the black, and back up again. Pretty straightforward. Any questions that I can answer, Brandywin?
No, I think they're looking pretty good.
All right. Oh, use yellow, you'll see the black thread very well. You're right. I could use some yellow beads. Ginger was right on it.
Right on it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So great. So that's
my base row. And you can see I've made it into a circle. Right now it's a bit of a rectangle, but it's a tube. Okay. With my thread coming out the top of that first group that I put on.
And so the way you translated it then to this color is you put on a pair.
We had 6
color
colors.
Pair. Right.
Yeah.
So
I put on 1 stack in each color.
in each color.
Right. Or in this case, I used just 1 color.
Right.
Right?
Got it.
So, herringbone from here on out is, as I like to say, lather, rinse, repeat. That's what they used to say on the back of the shampoo bottles. I don't
They
know
still
if
do.
They do they?
Yeah.
All right.
I've
So,
never listened.
I'm going to pick up 2 beads on my needle. I'm going to stitch down. And this is where it gets really easy. So this first little row of herringbone is a little different from the next group. But I'm going to go around in the circle. Come up the next guys. So it's really nice. I'm coming up, always coming up a white and going down a black. Let's grab a couple other colors. What do you say?
And
that's kind of not contrasty enough.
And the way it's similar to brick stitch is you also
The beginning?
aren't going through the bead, you're catching the thread?
No, I'm going through the
You're
bead.
going through the bead, okay.
Yep. Pick up a couple of green ones here. Go
So
down.
I'm trying to listen and loom at the same time.
That's all right. You've got to
It's
go
not
down through
serving me.
both. No, that's all right. And herringbone is based on the look of herringbone fabric, where there are diagonals or chevrons of,
Right,
of stitches up
going
and down.
right.
Yeah, almost like knitting, same kind of look. And if you notice, when I pull that down, they kind of flare out into that little herringbone shape. So now I'm done with my first row of herringbone, and I'm coming out at the bottom of my stacks, and I'm going to go up to come out of that yellow bead.
Nice.
Okay. See how those stacks gave me a little something to hang on to? That's kind of nice. And let's pick up 2 more yellow beads. So in this pattern, whatever bead I was coming out of, that was the first one I picked up. I have to say, doing the stripes around and around took a little bit of practicing to get used to that. So I've got my 2 beads on. I'm going to go down this yellow bead, and not down all the stacks, but I'm going to leap right over and come out that green bead. This is where things start to pick up speed a little bit. It's kind of nice. Because herringbone kind of
it's a fast
moves
one.
along.
Yeah.
Pick up a couple green, go down the green, and up the pink. And in herringbone, the thread does show. So I liked the white or the vanilla thread color for this project. So down the pink, and I'm going to pop over and go up both yellows. So
and what I want you to do also, I think that people are that you're facing a little this way.
Okay.
Can we face a
Turn a little bit this way?
Yeah, and
Is that better?
then can we get in a little tighter? I know Lorraine was saying that it's a little far away for her, so let's do another round maybe that's a little closer.
So herringbone has, in the round, has a step up. And we
Okay.
talked about stepping up last week when we talked about peyote stitch in the round. So you'll notice as I come around on this first row that my thread path is going to actually leap over and come up 2 beads. So this is the step up for this particular stitch. So I have to turn my needle and come up through 2, not just 1, but 2. And that will make me have an even layer of beads going around. Okay? I'm going to go around one more time.
Yep.
Or maybe 2. We'll see where Kate's at.
Yeah, I'm getting
Okay.
close. And then, do you have a chart for this that we're going to share?
Nope.
You don't
It's too
need a
easy
chart?
for that.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, people.
You know, we did the Pathways bracelet way back.
Yeah.
And that's also herringbone. It's very similar. It actually works exactly the same whether it's flat or round. Down the green, up the pink. See me going across there? And you'll see these bars of thread that are very apparent passing around this piece. So I'm about to do my step up again. Can you see how there's a bar here in between the beads, but no bar here? So I have to come across two beads below instead of just one. And I'll finish that, and then you'll see how consistent it looks all the way around. And herringbone's really flexible and soft. You really can't mess up the tension unless you're drastically too loose. It resists you pulling it too tightly, so it keeps a little bit of give. And all these little top rows that I'm going to work on next are all kind of hanging out here and open. But now I have an even number, because I stepped up. I have an even number of stacks and stitches all the way around.
Nice.
Yeah?
Nice. So, why don't you go ahead? I'm going to
You want me to do one more?
Why don't you go ahead? Can you...
You want me to start with the new one?
Can you actually start this
Sure.
again fresh?
Absolutely.
I think that where the camera is in a little bit of a better location now.
Sure.
So let's start it one more time.
Yep.
Because we're having a few people that are having a little bit of trouble seeing. So let's start it. Let's start it one more time, shall we? And then I'll.
Can I start it with colors instead of black and white?
Yeah, let's do it.
Maybe I'll use gray thread with this one though, so it makes it a little easier to see.
Great.
Okay.
And you guys, as always with Seed Bead School Stitches with Emily Stitches, you know you can go back and replay and go back and replay. So I know you'll get it.
Oops. And I have lipstick on, so I can't use the lip balm on the thread end trick, which is another one that works good to help you with the threading the needle. I guess I need a better cut.
Better cut. You're
I didn't use a stop bead this time because the first two beads were captured in a little loop of thread pretty quickly, so I didn't have to worry about that. And I usually would use a piece of thread that was about 1 yard long. And you will have to change thread in the middle of this, and I'll show you how to do that. It's pretty easy, but probably only have to change thread just the one time.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, good. Does it make everybody happy that I'm not having threading success right off the bat here?
That's okay.
Because that's what happens.
It happens to all of us, Emily Miller.
Well, it happens also when we're on camera. That's always
right.
charming.
It's the joy of live
television
streaming. That's right.
Although they have a delay, that's always good.
They have a little bit of a delay.
Yeah.
But the sometimes it's a little difficult.
Yep. Oh, you okay?
Yeah, I am.
All right. Okay, so let's start afresh here, and I'm going to get my my volcanoes out, and so that I have all my colors ready to roll. And you know, you could do this really in any color combo that you wanted. Who am I missing? Oh, tangerine. And you could make your stripes any way. I happen to follow what was in the tube only when I made mine, so that it stripes around and around like that. But we could do any color combination that we wanted. And if these aren't your colors, feel free. Pick a bunch of colors of other size 8 beads and go for it. So let's take 4 beads. 2 different colors. Got them? All right. I'm going to slide them down to the end of my thread, leaving a tail. Bring my needle back up through the first 2, which happen to be the tangerine, and then down through the buttercup.
The buttercup.
I don't know if that's its real name, but I kind of like that as a color. All right, I'm going to pick up 2 more. I'm going to take purple.
And again, the full listing of everything we're using, it's all on our website at beadshop.com. You just go to Facebook Live and you click on there, and there will be a listing of all of the projects that Emily has in her project, and all of the products.
All my products, 3 products.
All
Needles,
3.
thread, and beads.
That's right.
Doesn't get any simpler than that.
But it's fun to work with this color mix, it's way out of my comfort zone.
Oh, me too.
A number of people were saying that too.
Yeah. But I was so inspired by them being all together like that. I just couldn't walk away.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to bring those two ends together. And we'll go up, down, and back up again. Okay. And you know, truly, it doesn't even matter if you go clockwise or counterclockwise around this grouping. It matters not at all, if you were worried about that. Okay. So, 2 of these beautiful tangerine, 2 pink. Oh, I'm sorry, 1 and 1, not 2 and 2. Beg your pardon. So this means that the beads will stack on top of themselves, right? I'm going to go down.
Excuse me.
Without poking myself in the finger, if I can help it. See how they kind of nestle on top of each other and sit a little bit at a diamond shape from one another. Back up the green.
And Deb is asking, so this sequence is for the stripe, is that right?
Yes. Yes,
so
correct.
if you were picking up one of each, would it make a spiral?
One of each.
If you were doing, so this isn't really a stitch like peyote. If you're doing it in the round, it spirals.
Well, peyote can be in the round or it can be a spiral.
Right.
And this could be in the round or a spiral as well. Though they're actually slightly different.
Okay.
Okay. I am doing this an even count in the round. Peyote stitch, same thing, even count in the round. Down. So there's my 2 there. But we could do this in a spiral. Some of you will probably do an inadvertent spiral as you're getting to learn this. And that's if you mess up, you skip the step up. You'll get a spiral.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So
That's right.
same thing with peyote stitch. If you do an odd number of beads,
Right.
the step up won't happen and
Okay.
you'll just go around and around and around. All right.
Okay.
So,
Great.
something I need to do before I go any farther is I need to be coming out of the top of the beads. So I'm going to go all the way up and come out right there. And remember, this first row is a little different from the next ones. So I went all the way down through all the beads at the base, and now I'm only going to go through the one right next door. So I'm going to pick up my tangerine, my cotton candy. Gosh, I love cotton candy. Once a year I'm allowed cotton candy at the fair.
Yeah.
Right?
We had it when we went to the fair together.
Yeah, cotton candy and a wine Slurpee.
That's right. It was good times.
It was.
We know how to party.
So I picked up a green and a gold. You go down the gold, and I'm going to come up over here in the purple. Okay? Moving around. I need a purple. And a buttercup. And remember now, this is my step up. So I'm going to go through 2 beads to come up. Still coming up through that orange, tangerine. But I need to go through 2 to move myself so that my
Your needle's in position.
self is ready to come out around and finish that same color pattern going around.
Okay. That
Right?
looks great.
Does that make sense, guys?
Yeah, that's
Any
great.
questions? Sugar rush.
And we'll do some more clarification of it in the notes as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you're going to come back. We're going to come back to you, and you're
Yeah,
gonna,
whenever you're ready.
we're going to show how to.
We're gonna join the ends.
We're going to join
Yep.
the ends. So let's take a look at what I've got going on here, because I want to show you how I've herringbone, or not herringbone. Now I've got herringbone on the brain. How I've ombre'd this piece, and you can see. So I've used the Pacifica watermelon at the ends.
Oh, that's
And I use
lovely.
the surfer cord with pink. And so you can see it gives it kind of a whole different air, and it's also thinner, right? And so it just, depending on whatever surfer cord you choose, you could also choose to do a leather. You could do like a 0.5 or 1 millimeter leather on the ends. You could also use Chinese knotting cord on the
Sure.
ends too,
Yeah,
especially
yeah.
the 0.8 Chinese knotting cord. So When I've got here, I started with my green and I strung on 6 rows of just the green. And then I started to ombre, and I ombre 2 rows. And so I'm now ready to ombre here and to go into our next color transition, which is this guy right here. So I'm going to put on my
Want to use my
Pacifica.
volcanoes?
I may. My Pacifica watermelon. And then I can come over. And the way I started the looming, you guys, is I just started strung on my 7 beads, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, pushed them up through the warp of the loom, came back through and captured them in on top, and then I went through another time so that the threads are passing through again, making a second pass, so that this first row is nice and tight and secure. Okay, so I put on my watermelon, my 2 beads. I've got my shadow bead here for the center. Then I've got my 2, whoops, these aren't the right beads. I knew they weren't the right beads. So let me make sure I've got the right ones here. So I'm in the right color order. Now my shadow, now my 2 yellows, and my last little 3mm watermelon. So these go on, and the cool thing about the jewel loom is it's really movable. I can flip it around, I can do, you know, whatever it is that I need to do. And you know what? I don't know why I'm so spazzy with this. I didn't ombre, I think you threw me off using your volcanoes, Emily. I'm like, which one am I using? So hang on a second. That's all right. Let me get my yellow. I've got my watermelon. I'm going to grab my yellow.
It's funny, I got those yellows mixed up a couple times too.
I do. And I've got this. Now I've got my shadow. Now I'm just going to kind of arbitrarily, I'll make 2 of these be the yellow, and 2 will be that peach. So here we go. Now that's an ombre. Let's get that back. So you can see. And it's really subtle, but you really start to see it as you get more beads around it. Okay, so I push this up through the warps.
I really love the shadow down the middle.
I think it's kind of cool.
What was your, what, you just, I know you love shadows and you put them in
I
every
do.
project
I wanted a
you
little
could.
shine to it, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So I just added them. But you
It's
could
real
use
pretty.
that cut, that cut cube. So I've come through, and now I'm going to do another row of this. Would you hand me a few more of those watermelons that are
Sure.
hanging out over there? So I'll put on my watermelon. I'll put on a yellow. Maybe I'll put on now one of these peach. One of the shadow. And I don't want to stack them up, so I'll reverse what I did last time and get the watermelon in there. Okay, so now again, I can flip this around so it's easy for me to reach. And I'm using that green, apple green KO, because that's what I had for the other project. And you can see the green adds just a little hint of green at the edges, which is cool, or you could make your KO match this. Either way, whatever works for you. The KO is so thin that it doesn't really show on the surfer cord too much. Now what you want to make sure that you want to do, and I want to show you this, as I bring my needle through, you don't want to nick the surfer cord and actually sew your thread through it.
That's like splitting a thread.
Yeah, I mean you could, and it wouldn't be the end of the world, but it's not, it won't look very pretty. So I'm going to shove all these beads up with my finger. I scrape the needle along the roof of those beads to make sure I don't split my threads, and I come back through. So I'm just going to continue to loom, weave my loom as I go along. Okay. So now to close this off, I'm going to put my needle away here, and let's turn our attention to our finished one here. So let me put that aside.
I'm seeing some questions about the leather end.
Pardon
Kate,
me.
And I just want to see if I can't quite find a project other than Gypsy Bracelet that has the leather at the
Yeah,
end.
well, Tricks to Looming, Janice's piece is this one here.
Uh-huh.
It's in the Tricks to Looming. And if you look in, I think the handout there, that maybe if you go to its project page, I think it's there.
I'm not even finding that one. Is it in class handouts?
No, it's under Tricks to Looming. It's there, I promise. I promise. And also, if you go to...
There it is.
You find
Got
it?
Yep, I did. Ah, okay.
You got it?
Yep. I want to put, add this to the discussion.
And then if you also go to our projects, yeah, you can see that.
Got it.
It should be there. And we'll put that those links also in the project notes as well.
Here we go, guys.
So now let me show you what I did to close this off. Now we need a little bit of something to have the suede, the ending hang on to here, right? So I do this little weaving back and forth here with my ending threads. And what I did, I'll make one more pass here so you can see it. If you need to add thread for this to really have a nice long length, add thread before you end the last couple of rows.
Right.
Okay. And then, so you want like almost a good doubled, maybe like 30 inches or something. So
Okay.
you really have a lot to work with. So all I've done here is I've come in, and I like doing this with my thread doubled because the KO is thin. Okay. So I'm going to come around,
This is
and
where
I'm
all
just going
Kate's
to go.
weaving experience really comes to the fore.
Yeah, over, under. And you do the same thing when you're weaving what we call a header and a footer. On your weaving projects, you kind of do that same thing. So I can bring it through. And again, it's so mobile, this loom. It's just so easy to move around. And then I just kind of tighten it up. Not too tight. We don't want to compress this too tight at this point. Okay? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue this little weaving that I've done here. I'm going to glue it so it's going to hold this in place and then these warps in place as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and glue it. Okay, I have there. I'm okay for a moment. So we could choose some different glues. We've got 3 different usable glues at this point. We've got the Hypo, we've got the E6000, and we've got the Zap. And I don't see, where's our E6000? You can see it in the cup. We've talked about in bead embroidery, in the bead embroidery broadcast that we did last week, we used the E6000 to glue the back of the bead embroidery on the piece. And what we found was that the bead embroidery really was flexible with it. So I made the choice to use, instead of our traditional Zap glue that we do a lot of times with this, I'm going to use the E6000.
It's one of the things that I really like about the E6000. It's a little bit like grout that you can push into the corners and move it around, but it stays flexible.
It does.
One of the things that's so great about E6000 too, you could actually use it to glue things to a flower pot that was going to stay outside. It's super happy in different temperatures. And you can certainly use it in a lot of other household things. And it stays flexible, so it doesn't get hard and crispy with your fiber, which I like.
Yeah, I love it, love it, love it. So what I'm going to do, and one of the things with the Zap that it can do is it can travel down the threads.
It wicks down.
Yeah, and so it makes this part really, really stiff. Okay, so I want to make sure that I've got a little bit of room here. Okay, just a little bit, not much, but enough so that after I've glued, I've got a little bit of air. Okay, and again, since I'm using this E6000, it's not going to have that wick.
Right.
That wicking issue. At least we're hoping that it won't. So I'm going to open this up, and I'm going to get a little...
I have a baggie for you
Do
here.
you have a baggie?
I do, right at
That's
my
perfect.
fingertips.
I need so many baggies.
Kate and the baggies.
Everybody laughs at my baggies
No,
and my glue,
no.
but that's That's how I do it.
It's perfect.
So I'm putting out a little bit of E6000. Now really carefully, okay? This is a substandard toothpick. Let me get a toothpick that's not, there we go.
Wonky.
That's not all wonky. I'm going to get my toothpick. And I'm going to come in and glue across. Being really the most carefulest
And the
not to hit the
E6000 does
beads.
it does sink in. It does absorb into the threads, but the benefit of having it be a little slower drying and also not get stiff, I think it's well worth a stinky, which E6000 definitely has
Yeah,
a
it's
little bit of
definitely
odor.
stinky. And notice how, since I'm holding my bag up and underneath, any extra E6000
Well, you don't have to worry. You've
is
got
going to
to
come off with the bag.
you know, you've got to
And also, I don't know why I just didn't close this, cut that off,
get it out of
but
your
I'm
way.
going to get it out of my way. Okay. Now, I've got some room there. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. And I've got, this is okay here. And what I did this time, and this is kind of a weaver's trick as well, instead of ending right here at the end, I end kind of in the middle so that my thread isn't hanging off the end to have a little...
I do that too with seed beads when I'm ending a thread, as I will weave it in somewhere not on an edge.
Right.
So that it doesn't stick out.
And I want to make sure, I'm going to use my awl, give it my awl, raise those weft threads that I've woven there so that they're not touching the beads. That's the secret to giving this air. Em, would you squeeze me out a little more
Sure.
E6000?
This is where having a bead buddy at your hand is always helpful.
It is. Thank you. Now, and the question was here, do I have to add glue under the woven section? Alice was asking that question. And yeah, Alice, you were kind of reading my mind at this point. What I'm going to do, let's see, now I'm trying to hurry, and I don't want that glue. I need movement, so let's calm it down, Richburg, and be mindful about where you're putting this. I am going to, after I cut it off, I'm going to lay it flat, and I'm going to check and see if the glue has seeped through. If it hasn't, I am going to add just a touch, not a lot. There we go. I got my glue back under control, got myself centered again. Okay, so now I'm going to get rid of that little glue puddle because you know what'll happen. I'll glue my arm to it. Now I want to be really mindful of how I take this off because I want these threads, I'm going to utilize this surfer cord in my closure, especially on the one side. I'm going to utilize that for this closure here. On this side I don't have to be as mindful because I'm not going to have anything coming out. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to clip this away. And if I were doing this at home and not on air, I would have let the glue dry,
Sure.
of course.
Yeah.
At least let it sit. But we're going to move forward. I've got it right here, I think. There we go. And I'm going to clip all of these off.
Oh,
And
hooray!
look at that there, and it's off. Boom. So now I'm going to very carefully, since I tied that knot nice and tight, but not, or nice and firm, but not overly tight, I'm just going to use my awl to pick it apart just real quickly, undo it, and now I've got a whole bunch of surfer cord to work with here for one end. There it goes. And I'm going to cut away that right there. There we go. And Em, I'm going to hand you
Do it.
that, and let's go ahead and I will take that other little baggie that you gave
Sure.
me.
There you go.
Let's put little baggies under my glued ends.
I don't want to. Oh no.
So now I can also, before I kind of fool around with anything else, I would also, if we were doing this at home, I would let this relax. I'd give it a glass of wine. I'd say, put your feet up, loomed piece.
Take your shoes off.
Yeah, take your shoes off. I want you to really relax and have a good time here. So I would wait and just make sure that it all relaxed. But I'm going to pick this up. Look at how supple this is,
great.
right? And if I put this around my wrist, I can also see, okay, it's looking...
you're good.
Right? I mean,
You're golden.
it's not bad.
No, I like it.
And the edge of this surfer cord gives it enough support.
It's got a little body at the edge.
Yeah, it does. So I think it's nice.
You know, looming by itself sometimes looks a little fragile along the edges. I mean, it's not, but it could be mounted on something else, you know, on fiber or whatever. But that really looks lovely.
Thanks. So now we're going to measure. We're going to go over a little bit today, Emily, but that's just how today is going to be. Because we were ambitious. Mm-hmm. So if I know...
Surprise.
Surprise, surprise. So if I know that my beading portion is 6 inches, right?
Right.
And I want my finished piece to be 7 1/4.
Okay.
Right?
Should I be writing this down?
Need to... My ending suede after it's folded over 1 2 3 4 is going to need to be 5/8 of an inch. Okay,
Per end.
doubled times 2.
Okay.
Right. Because I'm going to fold it over,
Right.
so I can just say that
So
I'm
about
going to cut this
1.25
1.25 exactly, which is right here. Okay. So I'm going to get my little, I was going to grab, do we have our little rulers? Or,
Oh, let me grab
Would you
one.
grab one for
Sure.
me? I know we talked about it before. And see if there's, you know, in the scissors, I was going to do this with my thread snips, but I'm starting to freak out about it a little bit, and I want big scissors.
You want a regular pair of scissors?
Yeah, and I think the scissors in the fulfillment room are probably the right way to go. You could also, like if you're a quilter, my mom and I are quilters, you could, if you had a rotary cutter and a quilting mat, you could cut these just perfectly with your rotary cutter. But I'm going to do it with our good scissors here. So I'm
I
going
know
to use
these rulers get super popular around here, and they keep disappearing.
They do. So I'm going to use my little ruler, and I'm going to use my pencil here. And I'm going to measure, because this end is a nice straight across end. I'm going to measure here at that 1/4 inch, and I'm going to measure all the way across. That's the 1/4 inch. That's the 1/4 inch. That's the 1/4 inch. To give myself a little cutting line, that's the 1/4 inch. Let me do it over here. That's the 1/4 inch. And we'll have these measurements. Drea will put these in the episode notes as well. Okay. So now I've got kind of that little dashed line. I'm going to come across and connect the dots. This is something that we do in quilting. So see, Ma, I did learn some tricks while we're quilting. So I've got that straightish line. Okay. Oh, someone said I have glue on my shirt. I
No,
don't think
you know
I do.
what?
It's the end of my little
It's the end
thing.
of your bit showing
but
out.
thank you, Ginger, for
Ginger, I saw that note and I checked, and then I realized it was the tail of her tie
I'm
coming out.
okay.
It's all good.
Tail of my tie. Thanks for looking out for me. So now I'm going to cut it. And again, if you have a rotary cutter and you quilt, you could just zip this right across. Okay. So let me see if I need to cut more than one piece. I should have measured this before, but this is about 1.5 inches, and so I've got plenty here. So I'm going to come in I'll use my pencil again. That's 1.5 inches there. And I'll mark my other one. That's 1.5 inches. And 1.5 inches. And I'll make one more little mark here and I'll connect the dots. Again, with a rotary cutter, you could line this up with your quilting ruler, because I know we've got quilters out there. My mom and I cannot be the only quilters in this audience. Does it want to mark? That marks enough for me to see. There we go. And those are looking pretty straight. So now I'm just going to come in. We're going to use really good scissors, if you can, to get a nice clean cut across. There we go. And then we'll do this one here. Now hopefully, I'm not always the best measurer, so hopefully all of these calculations are correct, because I've been doing them on the fly. So let's see. So as I fold this over, I'm going to fold it over and make a little crease. I'm going to come in, and I know, Alice, I said that I was going to check the other side for... It's a little short. Maybe if I put it this way. I'm a little short with it, Em, actually. See how it's flaring out a little bit?
5/8 and 5/8.
But this piece that I have that's just kind of sitting here, it's the right height. I'm going to measure this. So I totally lied to you guys. So it's a little over. It's actually about maybe 1 inch and 5/8 as well. If I hold this here, I mean, it looks like 1.5 inches, but I think I actually need it to go a little bit beyond. So that was my mistake. So I'm going to just cut another one real quick and use this one as my template. You could also make a little template. I was thinking about doing that,
with some
making
stiff
a little,
paper.
some stiff paper or a paper template. So you could double check it so you wouldn't waste. But since these are the same, I'll cut these down and use this for our other little, the one that I
So I have a question for you, Kate.
Sure.
When I weave, I don't usually do this finish end at the end. I usually weave my warp threads back in. Would it be worthwhile to use a little bit more tension to pull these ends in just slightly?
You know, I could, and I know that Janice does that in some of her trips to looming, especially when we do that in tapestry, so it fits in the clasp.
Right.
I was thinking as I was weaving these, I wanted all of this to go up to the edge. So
you didn't want to have any reduction of the width.
I didn't. Though you could, so that the edges, you could really seal those edges well. I think there's an argument for doing it both ways, especially if you're going to do a clasp, though. Like, what did we use in tapestry? We used that Tall and Handsome clasp, I think. That one you do have to pull in what Janice calls the hips of the piece.
Right.
So it does fit into the clasp. Now, the Ultra Suede has two sides to it as well. There's a side that's kind of not as suede-y, and then the suede-y side, okay? So I want the more suede-y side to show. And you can see, there we go. I've covered it up.
Beautiful. Yep.
And it looks pretty nice.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and fold it. Now, in our little sample, can you guys see, whoops, if I can untangle it here. Can you guys see how here on the ends, there's a little clip, there's a little opening so that the cord is going to come through there and tie. Okay?
It's a little bit like the notches we made for the pin back.
For the pin back, exactly right. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to make a mark there and a mark there, and I'll measure. It's about, and again, it depends on the button you're using, but that's a little inside of a 1/2 inch. So maybe 1, 2, 3, I don't know, maybe 3/8 of an inch, about. That's what that looks like. And I'll come in and I'll use my thread snips, and I'm going to clip it here, because the cord that's coming through is going to be pretty small. It's that surfer cord. So you can see I've made clips, but they're not gigantic.
Right.
Okay.
So I would do the same thing with the pin back. You need a smaller hole than you think.
You do. So now this is the side where I'm going to do that length first. Now, what we want to do, actually, we need the button on, and the button is here. So what we've done is, while I sew this button on and get this all prepared, why don't you show everybody how you're going to close your
ready.
piece, and I'll sew this button on, and then we'll come back and we'll finish this off.
Okay. So, when last we met...
When we last visited, where was that piece with the needle that I was just throwing at you? Thank you so much. Sure. I'll take it.
This is through the magic of television. I always loved those cooking shows where they had the oven where they would put the uncooked thing in and then whisk the cooked thing out of the oven above it. It was like, wow, that's magic.
It is.
I
It's so
actually
magic.
finished up a piece for this, just for this show,
That's right.
so that we could finish it off live on the air.
Live.
And this end is the beginning end, and you can see that my stacks actually don't have a thread going across them. And the end of it also looks different from my finished beading end. My finished beading end has my stacks of herringbone kind of hanging out a little bit loosey-goosey here. So I need to put a needle on this thread. And this was a thread that I actually had to put in because I ran out of my first original thread. And I did the same kind of thread change that I would do on most of my pieces. I call it a 2-needle thread change. And what that means is to thread up a second needle. So you'll have 2 needles going for every project that you do. And when I thread up my second needle, I will bury it and knot it off down in my beadwork. So for instance, if this was going to be if I was going to add a new thread here, I would thread my needle, I would bring it into my beadwork, tie a knot around the thread in the beads, go up and down my beadwork a little bit, and I might do 2 or 3 knots. But the thing that you have to think about is, once you get that new thread established, if you tug on it and the tail that's hanging out doesn't move, you're golden.
You're A-okay.
Yeah. And then I'll bring it up out the spot where my old thread is and continue beading. And I'll leave that old thread dangling for a bit. I'll get maybe an inch or so along, and then I'll do the same thing in reverse. I'll take my old thread and go up into my new beading and tie it off as well. So what I like to think of is that wherever my thread changed in here, my old and new thread overlap one another. Okay?
Right, so they cross each other.
They cross each other's paths, and this helps me keep good tension, similar tension as I'm going along, but it also helps me make sure that this is nice and strong and it's really in there. In this case, I don't use any glue. So my materials list was so super simple. A tube of beads, a spool of thread, and some needles. I didn't use any wax.
Right.
Now, you need a pair of thread snips. You need a beading mat wherever you go. It's nice to have an all around, just in case.
Just in case. We like our alls.
Yep. A measuring device, which in this case you have right at the other end of your other arm, your hand.
Your hand.
So I'm just fitting it around this biggest part. And you could measure it with a tape, but remember that this has got some inside diameter. So this might look a little long, or it might look a little big, but the minute you get it down into a circle, it's going to be smaller.
Right, because
Right?
that inside diameter takes up some room as
Right.
you turn it into the circle.
Right. So I'm going to take my freshly needled thread. I have a good amount here. And I'm going to bring my beginning end around to my finishing end. And I can see that my thread is coming out of my purple bead. Okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to work back and forth across these openings all the way around. This is very similar to the way I do my closures for my pieces that I do with bead crochet.
Right, right.
Very much the same process. And as I work this, I'm actually going to create the thread loops in between these beads that are not existing right now in my beginning stacks. So it will actually all look the same. It will have all the thread loops between all of the beads. Okay? So I'm going to take my needle and come up into my very first purple bead, and I'm going to come out between the two purple beads, the first and the second purple bead. This was in my stack. These were my original beads that I started with. Okay? I'm going to go down my pink bead. That'll form that nice little thread loop in between the beads. So it's all going to look very similar, although it's not working in the same way. I'm going to go straight across to my finished end, pull that through, and zip them right together. They're actually going to match up and look amazingly alike. I'm going to go over one bead to the peach and across the gap, coming out between the first and second peach beads from way back when. And I'm going to keep rolling this over down the yellow lined, yummy yellow, and down that yellow bead in the finished end.
Look at how clever that is.
Oh, it's so nice to have it look perfect.
Right.
Bead crochet, this is a much more struggly step. Up my matte lemon yellow and into the one across the way. Same. Pull it up kind of firmly. Look, it's disappearing. You can't even see where I did that join.
No, look at that.
It's really wonderful.
I can't wait to put that on my wrist.
Where's it going to go next? It's going to go right on Kate's
on
wrist.
my wrist.
Right?
What a surprise.
So I'm going to go across from the yellow into the green, down and into the green on the opposite side. The little tug. Ah, my seam is just about disappeared. Up my purple again. Oops, I can't quite see my needle. There it comes. So I've gone all the way around, turning those stacks into herringbones. Okay? And now I have two threads coming out. Can you see? This is my tail thread from when I began my weaving, and this is my current weaver. So I'm going to go into the stack with this one first. I'm going to go up a few beads and pop out. I'm going to take that tiny little stitch, just like when you're sewing the fabric or sewing on a button. I'm just going to get my needle underneath the thread that's in the beads, make that loop small, tighten, and I'm going to step right over to this next stack, go up a few. So this is how you hide your knots, and you spread out the tensioning of those knots across this piece. I go in here and just picking up the thread between the beads. How we doing, Brandon? Any questions?
We're doing okay, I think.
Cool. Step over
so.
here to these yellow guys.
Doing okay, Brandon? You think?
Yeah, we're getting a lot of yes, beautiful.
Yeah, people
nice
are loving
job.
you. People are loving you, Em.
Right? I'm just going to weave around. I did 2 knots. I'm going to just weave around a little bit and call it a day.
Great.
When you cut your thread, try cutting under a little bit of tension. So pressing down to your work, and let us put a needle on the other end of this guy and do the same with that tail end of thread that I began with. I think these colors are they're very Eastery, they're very springy. I think they're very youthful. I think they're very refreshing.
Yeah.
You know,
It's really taken me way out of my comfort zone, like
and
we mentioned earlier, but I'm really digging it.
I think that it's sometimes it's kind of nice to have that happen to you. It's, you know, colors that you're like, whoa, I never thought I was going to like this, but here we
Right.
go.
Right.
So here's the end of my thread. This came from my stacks, and I'm going to go to the other direction with my thread. Scoop up the thread between the beads, pull it into a little knot, tighten, skip across, go up some yellow beads.
Yeah, and this way, you're just finding your path.
Absolutely.
Right, you're not really
Yeah, no, I'm just reinforcing
saying,
and tying off the end of this thread. That's really all that's happening,
Oh, it's so good.
you know?
And I can see now why using that micro seal-on, it's really given it a lot of body.
It really has.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really, in this case, I really like it for this bit of weaving. You know, 8s have a much bigger hole.
They do, especially the Japanese 8s.
Yeah, not that an 11 would really fit in that hole, but boy, it would kind of come close. You know, the outside edge of an 11, outside size of an
And there
11.
you are turning the corner, and you're going to tie your third knot.
I can tie one more here.
Great.
Just pick up that little stitch. It's just like a little, like you would do sewing on a button or a repair on a garment.
There
And
it
then
is.
I'm just going to go up one more to hide the tail. So like Kate would never end her thread on the edge of her looming, I always try to bury the tail a little further up in the beadwork. Oh, look, I have both the threads.
Yes, I was just noticing.
How did that happen?
How clever. How clever you are.
How greedy of me.
There you go.
Right? Clip off that last thread, and bam. And this, of course, rolls around. So we can have kind of any color upright on the outside. You know, these color palettes, you can kind of spin it to the purples, oranges, and pinks.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Or you could kind of push it over to the yellows and greens and orange.
It's really nice.
Yeah,
and
it's fun, isn't it?
beautiful.
That's why when I saw this mix, I said, that's exactly
That's what
what's
you're
going
going
to
to
happen.
do. Oh, it looks great. I love it, love it. Well, I am all set up while you were mesmerizing the crowd with your herringbone prowess. I got my piece all set to go. So, Brandon's coming over to follow me, and let me show you a little bit about what I did here. So I neatened everything up, and before I did that, I added, like Alice asked earlier, did you put a little bit of glue on the back? And I did. I turned it over and I added a little more E6000 on the back of this. Now, I want you to really see how the glue is almost dry here. It is dry. But look at what a supple, and Janice, I hope you're seeing this, look at what a supple glue closure this is.
So yummy.
think this is amazing. I think this looks really, really great. And so this is all, it's all done, and it feels really rubberized, but it really feels like it's in there. So I am really pleased with the way that this came out, right? So I've given it a little bit of a haircut here, okay? And I've got the edges of my cord there, and I sewed my button on so that when I folded this over, the button is going to be all set and ready to go there, okay? So I'm going to come in, let's glue this button side first, okay? So let me get yet another toothpick. Thanks to my mom getting my little toothpick stash and mailing it.
It's the best.
I love it. I'm getting my little bit of E6000 out. Now, I want to be, again, super mindful, you guys, of how I'm applying this glue. Okay?
What are you being?
Super mindful.
Not just a little bit.
Not just a little bit,
A lot.
but a lot mindful. Because, again, one of the problems we've had in the past with looming is we get the glue all over those flippin' beads, and you know what it's not? Pretty. It is not pretty. So we really need to make sure that I'm placing the glue exactly where I need it. Again, this is something that I would probably let all of this dry overnight and come in and do it in the morning when I'm fresh. Like I always say, I don't like to put the clasp on until my necklace has sat. Now can you see here, I'm placing this right on the top, and I really want to, I'm going to put this down. And notice the button side, I'm starting with the non-button side. I'm going to use something like my awl or a toothpick or something that's really going to push that down. Now I'm going to turn it over, and we're going to add glue to the second side. Okay. And don't get me wrong, my love affair with Zap Glue has not ended.
You know, I just said, Janice said, is it all E6000 everywhere now? And you know, I have sort of felt for a long time that E6000 is better when we're working with porous things. So
Yeah.
anything fiber-y, that where
Yeah.
it can dry out through the piece, and you want it still to be a little bit flexible.
Yeah.
I like the Zap or super glue type glues when I'm doing non-porous to non-porous. So if I'm gluing a stone back in, a rhinestone that's fallen out, the Zap glue is a great choice.
The Zap is great. The Hypo Tube is, the Hypo
Yeah.
Cement is also great.
And if I'm doing the leather into the clasp, you know, a flat, wide leather
Right.
into a clasp, Zap glue's perfect for
Yeah,
that.
it's perfect because it
You know?
grabs that leather
Yeah.
and just hangs on to it. The thing that I really also love about the C6000, what was really kind of a bummer for me was that we'd get E6000 in such giant tubes that it would just be ridiculous. It would
Redonkulous
just
how messy it was.
messy, and it would dry out. And so when Janice and I and Emily were deciding to add the E6000 to our product mix, we found these tiny tubes that are really inexpensive, and you're not committing to a giant tube that once opened is going to start to dry out.
Yeah.
Notice how I'm using the toothpick like a little squeegee almost, and I brought that glue right down to my line of beads. Now I'm going to fold this over, letting everything meet up nice and even. And this button wants to give me a little bit of like a curve in the leather, so I want to make sure that everything is nice and flat.
Little sass.
Yeah, I'm going to put that. It's just because the needle from where I stitched it, and you saw the stitching on
Yeah.
the inside there. And I'm going to use that all, give it my all one more time, to really make sure that that leather, that ultra suede, is down. And I'm going to do the same thing, and if I have a little bit of an opening there, I can come in, I can do a couple of things. And I was thinking about this.
Yep.
We were talking about this earlier. I could leave this open and come and do a picot edge.
Stitch through.
I
Yep.
could do a little blanket stitch.
Well, and the E6000, you can still stitch through it after it's dry.
Exactly.
You know, no problem.
So I'm going to come in and get my glue right here on my toothpick, and I'm going to slide it right here on the inside. And again, it's really staying where I put it. But like we always say, closing off a loomed piece, or closing off anything, really, I'm just going to take that extra away. Closing off anything just takes time and care, right?
Well, and this is the it's not the back of the piece, but it's the continuation of this piece. It wouldn't be the same if you did a crappy job after you'd spent a bunch of time on. Oh, there's a good choice for
See,
clamps.
I can also, because someone just said, who was it that said, Krista, you said a great place for quilt clamps.
Yeah.
And yes, that is exactly right. So I'm going to use my little clampers right here to help close that up. And I'll do the same thing over here. So bear with me, you guys. I know we're going a little bit long, but Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither was my loom piece. Did my mom just read my mind like she always does and wrote, use a clamper to hold it. Because my mom and I share one brain. That's kind of how it goes. Okay. So I'm going to come in, and I've got a little bit of extra. What I did last time was I grabbed it with my fingers, but you may want to wear rubber gloves, but I
It's
wasn't.
a little stinky.
Yeah, I'm going to grab this with my end of my baggie and really just kind of pinch and pull to close that up. Okay? So, there we have that. So now that side is nice and neat, and if I do say so myself,
Kate, it's stunning.
looks pretty good,
It
right?
is stunning.
So I'm gonna turn this around. It's a little wavy gravy, but not too bad, and especially once
if
it's
you,
on, it's gonna be fine.
Massage it just a tiny bit.
it's gonna
you're
be
good.
fine. So let me show you what I did on this one, you guys. Remember how I made those little holes? And to get my cord through the holes, I used a big eye needle.
Oh, so smart.
And I just threaded those through the holes, and now I'm going to take this off. And the glue, you know, it's a little stinky. We do recommend that you use it in a well-ventilated area. But the smell doesn't linger on the piece
Right. You know,
after you've used it.
Sherry, you can do this and leave it to dry if you have a garage or
leave it outside.
laundry room or utility room that kind of gets lots of air and you don't want to worry about it too much.
Yeah, but
the
don't
other, stay away from birds.
Or the kitty cat.
And the
if your
kitty cats,
cat
yep.
will be all, what's this nice bracelet you made me?
Stamp.
Right?
Another trick to this
Counts.
is to be judicious about how much glue you have out at a time.
So
You
I
know,
keep adding glue.
I know, and that's
Right,
great.
small amounts.
So small amounts means you're going to limit your exposure for
Mm-hmm.
sure.
And again, I'm not wearing gloves. You may want to put on a pair of rubber gloves just for safety. I'm like the doctor who lights up their cigarette and says, "Don't smoke." So do as I say and not as I do.
And I wear gloves a lot because I have skin problems. But in this case, I think I just would have grabbed a baggie and
Yeah,
used the
and
baggie
used it.
to pinch off any extra.
So now I'm going to try and be really even. I'm going to put this down. I'm going to try and be really even as I pull this through. See how my cords and my glue is on the other side there. See how my cords are coming up the side
Yep.
and through. And now I'm going to turn it over. I'm going to put it on the little baggie. And we're going to make sure that it's in the right place because the E6000 is still pliable.
And
push that
E6000 does
down.
not dry as quickly as...
No, but it dries pretty quick.
It does.
Yeah.
The
And now
super
I'm
glue,
just
the
going to
Zap
add the glue
glue,
on the other side.
boy, just dries
do
like
this.
nobody's business.
Fast.
I actually made bracelets last Saturday at a party and was able to hand them off.
Oh, we're going long. We're going so long. I'm sorry, you guys. But this is how this goes. So we're almost to the home stretch, and then we've got some fun things
Oh,
to
yeah.
share with you, and then we will call it a day. So thank you for hanging in there with us. I'm going to spread this right around the other side. Just a little more.
Good night, Suzanne
Oh, Suzanne.
in Finland.
Yes. So there we go, all the way to the edge, you guys, all the way and just above. Notice that I, when I give it what Janice likes to call a little haircut, I also like to make sure that all of those little ends that I've cut off have the glue in as well. So nothing is going to pull out. Okay, that looks good. Now let's fold this over. I'm going to pull these cords out so it's nice, they're nice and even. There's nothing bunched underneath. Use my awl to tamp all of that down. And then I'll come in and I'll close up this end and stuff like I did on the other side. Now, if I were making this to fit you, I'd bring this around and I'd bring my little closure, my little cord ends here, and then I would see
that's
how
kinda
much
nice.
room I would need, and then I'd tie my knot right
Yeah,
there.
absolutely.
Okay, my overhand knot. So, but I know that I'm going to need to have these for me, butt right up against. So I'm going to pinch it right there, and I'm going to make sure that my button can come out, and it can. And I'm just going to tie a little overhand knot right there. And then I could get some pretty beads if I wanted to put on the ends of these tails or whatever.
Maybe a slightly larger shadow.
Yeah, that's a great idea. That's actually, it's a little bit big, so I want to move this knot down just a touch. The surfer cord, I like it as much as you guys do. And you could use any of the little melon beads that we have.
The baby melons are the best.
The baby melons look great. It looked great with that pink.
Yep.
So now when I go ahead and put it on, and we can adjust it for size, but
Yeah. Oh
there
my gosh,
it
it's
is.
gorgeous.
And then I'll come in. I might tighten this up just a hair so it fits like that, and I'll put some little dangles on
Do it.
the ends.
Do
But
it.
that's it, right? Not bad.
Yeah.
Ta-da!
Ta-da!
I think we did it, Em. This is
did.
our spring surprise.
Surprise!
Surprise! Surprise! Super surprise. Well, let's go ahead and wrap this show up, shall we?
Let's do it.
All right, are
Okay.
we coming back up?
Yep, coming back up. Let's do it. So thanks, you guys, for sticking with us. We were a little ambitious today, but
Well,
what do you
we
think?
never
Once in a
really
while-
know until we get there.
no, once in a while we have to go long. So today we went long, which was great.
Yeah.
It was
It's
fun.
fun. We actually like going long.
We do. We do this all day, but we know that you have lives, and we've got to move
We've
on
got-
to Facebook Live for next week.
We've got to work on stuff for the next week Facebook
That's
Live,
right.
So.
So, speaking of next week, you guys, this is the piece, and you're going to see it a little bit closer. We'll have it up and running. But I know you had a quick question. This is
So
that
yummy.
new half circle clasp that we've got. So we're going to be doing prairie next week. We're going to be teaching this new stitch and stuff. So we've got 3 delicious colorways, and those will be coming up soon. But this is the sample that Janice made, and it's a stunner. So we've got a lot of tricks to share with you on this one. We've
I
got
love
2
these
more
little
colorways.
big rings
right? The
moving
rings,
around.
the mini hoops.
Yeah.
They're making a reappearance from Nun Design, and then we're debuting this brand new clasp. This clasp is not on the website yet, but it will be on, I think it debuts next Tuesday sometime. So it'll be on in plenty of time for the broadcast. And you know, if you guys missed any of our Spring Surprise broadcast, you can rewatch it on YouTube. It'll be up on YouTube in about an hour. And it'll be posted, of course it stays here on our Facebook page, and Karen also links it on the website as well. So,
We also got questions.
some
about,
questions?
your bracelet.
your bracelet,
Your
Em?
necklace.
Yeah,
You know,
I made myself a ladder bracelet this weekend because I could.
yeah.
And I had a mix of aquamarine rondelles, and I separated them out of the mix.
Yeah, so you could use that. Those are from your personal stash.
Those are
but
from my personal
you
stash.
could use.
Oh.
We have our stone rondelles that are right behind us on the wall. They're
Yeah.
right here. I'm gonna grab them. They're
Look.
right here.
You could use these too.
Yeah, you could.
Right?
Those
Oh,
are
yeah.
our
that would be
matte black gold.
Yeah.
8mm. I just grabbed these are the picture Jasper rondelles. You
Yeah,
could use
they'd be
those.
so
There's a
cool.
whole bunch. You could even use
Yeah.
our glass rondelles
Yeah.
that we had for them.
But it was
So
fun to mix and
It's a
and,
really nice shape.
This is a necklace that Kate bought for me.
I did. I bought it at the SF MoMA
She
Museum
heard
shop.
me say that I just adored it, and then she used her employee discount to get it for me. Isn't it
I
pretty?
did. I
wooden
back when I
and,
was working
um,
at the SF MoMA for a short
Polymer clay
period.
beads.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
polymer clay and wood beads, and we have our wood beads that I can't quite
No,
reach them.
Oh,
they're
they're
over.
moved.
Oh, they're way down there.
Yeah.
Our wood beads that we have would go really great with
Yeah,
that.
we could do something like that.
With
too.
polymer, but it's really. I'm so glad you like it.
Oh, I
It's a
love it.
fun
Are you
piece.
kidding?
It's a fun piece.
Wear it all the
So
time.
we'll put the closer shots in the episode notes, you guys. So we'll lay it out and we'll share it with you then. We have a great giveaway today. First of all, if you're still with us, out in our newsletter today, we have a 2-day store-wide because we thought that you would not have seen the surprise, so we wanted
Right.
to give you a little extra time to shop with the surprise. So if you add Spring 20 to your in your discount code. Today it's good today and tomorrow. And today is April 4th, 2018, and it goes through midnight Pacific time, April 5th, 2018. So if you add Spring 20 right in your discount code upon checkout, you'll knock 20% off of everything, including all the stuff that we use today. We also have, in the group, people have been going crazy
for the bead embroidery.
with the bead
And
embroidery.
I got to tell you, I've forgotten who this was now. Who showed?
It's Nancy.
Nancy showed
all Nancy's
off her
fault.
button collection, and I went. No,
It
not
wasn't
Nancy.
Nancy's button collection. Nancy did the piece. It was
Somebody.
I'll tell you.
Somebody showed off their button collection,
I'll tell you.
and it was so exciting. I looked at it and I went, "Oh my God, those buttons are so beautiful."
They were so good.
So good. So we decided to do a raffle for today.
We are going to start off your bead collection
Your
or
button
your button
collection.
collection.
With a raffle of 19 buttons.
19. Janice's jaw just
Hit the
dropped
ground.
to the floor.
Yep.
She was saying,
I
"What?"
went and picked out buttons.
And it was Lynn's. It's Lynn's.
Lynn's.
Lynn's button collection.
And I picked out a collection of buttons because not only do you use them for clasps, but you use them in bead embroidery.
Mm-hmm.
And I just made myself happy. Janice.
She did. And she chose 19 really fun buttons.
So there's different kinds. There's buttons with shanks, buttons that are sew-through buttons with holes, a mix of colors, a mix
A
of
couple of green
materials,
girls, a couple of the check glass.
glass,
So there's all kinds of fun stuff.
things that have dragonflies and moons and
The
Day of the
skull.
Dead skulls and flowers and a beautiful sand dollar and a tree of life.
If you, as you're making your order, I'm going to have you hold this one out.
Got it.
When you're making your order, we're going to give away this collection right here to all orders that are made between like now or noon, between the usual broadcast ending time and about an hour forward. So we're going to go until about 1:30 Pacific time today.
We will put all your names in a hat and pull one out.
We're going to randomly, as we do, and we're going to put in, if you put in your order notes, start my collection, you'll be in the running for this starter collection right here, which is great. And
It's amazing.
how much is this worth retail, Emily?
Janice. It's $85 for
That's
the buttons.
right! We did it! Sorry, JP, you're on the East Coast, we're on the West Coast. But they're really, really lovely. And I think you guys are going to really have fun playing with them, whoever wins it.
It's a really, I mean, it's a beautiful handful
Yeah.
of inspiration and gifts and presents for
It'll be
yourself
really fun.
and choices that you might play around with. Maybe choices you never would have picked.
Yeah.
I hope.
And we always announce, I go in and I announce on the thread and I announce in the bead shop group who wins. So you can scroll back through the feed to see who've won, and then we contact you directly right after we've
So make
pulled
sure
your
you
piece.
put in your notes, your shipping notes, you must say, start my collection.
Up until about 1:30 Pacific time, so it's about an hour from now, we will do that, we'll do that drawing. And then through tomorrow night, Spring 20. Emily, we got through our spring surprise.
I know. I loved our spring surprise. I think maybe we should do a summer jumpstart.
Summer
or
soiree.
Summer soiree.
Something, yes.
Something.
Yes.
Picnic in the park.
Yes.
Or
Well, we
something.
did.
Maybe
It
we
was
should
good
go
times.
out on
On location?
location.
Maybe. You never know what we're going to do.
I know where we can go on location.
Okay, tell me after the
All
broadcast.
right, I will.
I don't know. Next week, you guys, we will see you for our brand new prairie. It's going to be really, really fun. Friday, I'll see you for Free Tip Friday for something fun and exciting. And that's it. We went a little long today, but thanks for hanging in with us.
No
It
one
was really
minds.
fun. We had a great time. So thank you, Em.
Thank
Thanks
you,
for
Kate.
Herringbone. I'm excited.
Absolutely.
And
Put your bracelet on.
Oh, I'm going to put my bracelet on. And so thanks so much for tuning in, you guys, and we'll see you soon
See
on
you
Facebook
soon.
Live. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Yeah, look at that.
Look how nice that
Look.
looks together.
It's perfect.
Yeah. Isn't
That's
it nice how
perfect.
comfortable that
Yeah,
is?
That looks
I
great.
mean, like, it's crazy.
Looks great.